School segregation in Chile. Residence, copayment, or preferences. Felipe H. Arteaga, Valentina Paredes, Ricardo de Paredes. August 4th, 2014. Abstract. The high level of school segregation in Chile has been attributed to school choice and public policy, which was guaranteed a heated debate about the way in which the school system operates, along with little clarity on the factors behind it and their relative magnitude. In principle, parents have an unrestricted choice of schools, yet a considerable number of state-funded schools can charge parents copayment fee. We modeled an estimate secondary school choice in Santiago de Chile using a flexible structure, latest class logic, which allows us to differentiate preferences according to each family's characteristics, and which considers restrictions based on the availability of schools and academic selection. The most relevant aspects affecting choice, costs, distance, quality, and curricula are valued heterogeneously among the population. Comparatively wealthier families particularly value school academic performance. They have less consideration on travel costs and school fees, and they avoid vocational schools. Based on the estimated model and using different counterfactuals and indices, we concluded that 10% of 23% of the total segregation can be explained by the fee that some subsidized schools charge, 80% to 13% by residential segregation, and 41% to 46% can be attributed to the variability in the parents' preferences. Introduction. Under different definitions and criteria, Chile shows a high level of school segregation. Nevertheless, there is little clarity on the factors behind it and their relative magnitude. In the Chilean school system, the parents' choice of school is legally unrestricted, but this is conditioned by the fact that significant percentage of state-funded schools can charge additional copayment fees, as well as select their students. A relevant question for policy design is which part of segregation can be explained by those additional fees, which part by other factors such as residential segregation, also the result of public policy, and which part lies with the parents' own preferences. We explored these factors in the secondary school education system within Greater Santiago, Chile, a city of 247 square kilometers (sq mi) with more than 6 million inhabitants and a strong urban segregation. Here, the system of school selection and funding via vouchers, which is applied to over some 90% of the population, may be the most extremely voucherized system in the world. In this context, we used a model of school choice which, besides considering costs, quality, and distance, as already noted in other literature, Gomez and Paredes, allowed us to consider the heterogeneous preferences of the parents. In addition, we considered elements which seek to isolate this decision relating to the parent's choice from those relating to the selection made by the schools, restricting the alternatives of each family depending on their income and the academic selection which some schools can implement. In line with the pioneers' work of Gallego and Hernando 2008, we compared the observed segregation with the segregation as predicted by the model, and with three scenarios which, considering all other things being equal, simulate: 1. Fee-free schooling, no copayment; 2. Absence of residential segregation; and 3. Lack of variability in preferences between families. The consequences on segregation were evaluated using different indexes of segregation. In particular, we used the indices proposed by Riordan 2011, which void the arbitrary definition of what is considered a vulnerable group, which renders the results sensitive to that definition. The remainder of the paper is organized as follows. Section 2 describes Chile's education system and presents a summarized review of the literature about the selection of schools and the segmentation of the school system. Section 3 describes the data and methodology. Section 4 presents the results, and Section 5 gives a brief conclusion. 2. Background. 2.1. Chile's education system. In 1981, a major educational reform was carried out in which the management of public schools was transferred from the national government to the municipal councils. Also, the school financing scheme was changed to incorporate the state of subsidy or vouchers to schools, which was proportional to student attendance, without discrimination between private or public schools. The change to the system of vouchers allowed for families to consider more school options, including private schools, creating the incentives for the schools to compete to attract more students, and in principle leading to a higher quality education. Friedman, 1962. In 1993, a new regulation came into force, changing in the design of the discounts to the subsidy for the copayments that parents could make. Law to 1947. This allowed for the fee paid by the parents to effectively translate into more resources for the schools, creating that we know today as shared funding. The discount thus became proportional to the charged amount and with a cap. The regulations don't allow for the copayment fee to be charged in public primary schools. In secondary schools, it's only allowed after the majority of the parents have approved it. Additionally, it regulates that 5% to 10% of the fees contributed by the parents are to be allowed towards scholarships. In 2006, and with the objective of alleviating the risk of social segregation, which could be linked to the copayment fees, the state found the schools had to allocate 15% of their enrollment to vulnerable students to whom they couldn't charge copayment fees. In 2008, the Preferential School Subsidy CEP was established, which allowed schools that voluntarily implemented this allocation to receive an additional subsidy for each of these priority students. To receive these resources, the school is required to not select its students through interviews or tests, as well as exempting these priority students from paying any copayment fee. So the reform of 1981 established three types of schools: public schools owned and founded by the state, private subsidized schools, and private not subsidized schools. 2.2 School choice. The impact of school choice in different dimensions have been deeply studied, but few works have focused directly on the parents' preferences. Ladd 2002, Levine 1998, Neal 2002 review global experiences of systems with freedom of choice, finding different results in performance and equality. Borland and Housen 1992, Koch, Sugard, and Williams 1993 pioneered the analysis of the relationship between competition and learning. Hawksby 1994 to 2000 suggests that greater competition increases learning teachers' salaries and graduation rates at public schools. Brown Munzinger 2005 arrived to the same conclusion when they studied 21 voucher programs in 14 countries. See also Bulmark and Lindahl 2008, Gibbons, Machine, and Silva 2008. Contradictory findings have been reported by Bayer and Macmillan 2005, Ladd and Fisk 2001 in the case of New Zealand. Hastings and Weinstein 2008 underline the relevance of the information about schools' academic level and suggest that the lower interest families put in the academic results could be that because even though they do value the academic elements highly, they can express their preference because of the cost of or because of restrictive access to and interpretations of this information. Hastings, Van Wilding, and Weinstein 2007 conclude the delivery of information impacts positively on the academic performance of the chosen school. In the case of Chile, Gallego and Hernando 2008 model school choice through a multinomial logic using the specification of Berry, Levinson, and Pakes 1995. The results indicate that quality and distance are the most important factors for the parents, increasing the importance of the former and decreasing the latter as the family income increases. Starting with independent estimations with groups of schools that have different admissions process requirements, the authors suggest the self-segregation phenomenon is more relevant than the selection carried out by the schools. Chumacero et al. 2011 estimate a model of selection of the nearest school using georeferenced data corresponding to observations of primary and secondary education. They conclude that distance and quality are the most relevant criteria in the selection of a school. Gallego, Lagos, and Steckel 2012 concluded a randomized experiment in which they assessed the impact of the choice of a school by delivery of information to lower-income parents about the quality of the neighborhood schools and the proliferability of a good school. They conclude that informing about the quality of the schools in the area increases the academic performance, the price, and the average distance traveled to the chosen school. Gomez, Chumacero, and Paredes to 2012 analyzed the effect that communicating publicly the academic results of each school had on the parents' decision. They found it to have a positive effect, but they noted that even when this information was not publicly known, parents still acted as if they knew about differentials of quality. 2.3 Segregation in the Chilean school system. There is a general consensus that school segregation in Chile is high. Isied and Urquiola, 2006, in their pioneering work suggest that the main impact of the 1981 policy changes was a migration of middle-class students from public education to private subsidized education, which they linked to cream skimming. Valenzuela Belay and De los Rios, 2008, show an increase in segregation measured using the Duncan Index. They know the positive correlation between educational segregation and a higher prevalence of private subsidized schools charging copayment fees. Gallego and Hernando, 2008, using a discrete choice model simulate the effect of eliminating the copayment. They suggest that the reduction of the segregation is moderate and that the segregation could be largely explained by preferences of the parents rather than the school selections of its students. Elacqua, 2012, used the threshold of primary students according to their vulnerability and shows a subtle downward trend in segregation measured by the Duncan Index over time. Paredes, Volante, Subizarreta, and Opaso, 2013, construct various segregation indexes for primary and secondary education using data from all over Chile across different years without any apparent trend over time. 3. Data and methodology. 3.1. The data used in this work comes from a variety of sources. They mainly come from the 10th grade SIMSE test held in 2006 and the university section test PSU from 2009. Together, they contain indicators of school performance, characteristics, and preferences of the families, perceptions about the school, and the residential address of the students. Using the students' IDs, the PSU records allow us to identify the students' residence in 2009, and assuming they haven't moved house, we can estimate the distance between their residence and different schools for 2006. No hablamos del total de observaciones ni de colegios. 37.859 OBS y 798 colegios. Other databases used were the National Socioeconomic Characterization Survey, CACEN, from the Ministry of School Development, used in conjunction with the SIMSE databases from different years to narrow the universe of school choice options according to income, and explain it further below. Information about private school fees obtained through contact with the school, and the databases for enrollment and performance sourced from the Ministry of Education. Using the GeoGef reference of the addresses made by Chumacero, Gallegos, and Paredes, 2014, and of the schools and published by the Ministry of Education, we calculated the Euclidean distance between schools and homes. We observed that the average distance from homes to schools is 2.5 mi, with 99% of students attending the schools 2.5 miles, attending the school nearest to their home, whilst 25% attend one of the five closest to their home. Compared to the public school students, private non-subsidized school students travel an average 35% less, and private subsidized school students travel an average 40% less. In addition, nearly 2/3 of public school students don't live in the same county municipality as their school, whilst more than half to the private subsidized school students live and study within the same county. The variables at the individual level were constructed using the survey for parents and guardians related to SIMSE. They include family income, years of education of the parents, gender, schooling expectations for the children, and reasons for the school choice. See Arteaga 2014. The characteristics of the schools consider average attributes of the student body, such as income and education of parents, monthly school fees linked to the Catholic Church, and average income of the neighbors as a measure of the vulnerability of the area where the school is located. Regarding the admission requirements, we considered dummies for schools in which at least 2.3 of the surveyed declared their required presentation of a certificate of baptism and or religious marriage, interview with the parents, write an exam of admission test or certificate of income. Also at the school level, we obtained the average satisfaction level declared about the quality of education, infrastructure, and facilities, performance of the teachers, and moral education. Table 1 presents the mean of the different variables considered at the individual level for each income decile. The description of the variables at the school level is presented in Annex A, Table A1. 3.2 Modeling school choice. The modeling of the school choice requires to consider discrete choice models with the multinomial logic McFadden 1973 being the most popular on the base of numerous extensions. We follow Gallego and Hernando 2008b incorporating more flexible modeling structure, which allows the capture of nonlinear heterogeneity in the preferences according to the parents' attributes. Specifically, we used the latest class logic or finite mixture model, Kamakura and Russell, 1989, which assumes the parents could have different preferences. Assigning them endogenously according to their socioeconomic characteristics on different classes or segments, which represent different preference patterns. The model is defined under the theory of random utility, Walker and Ben Akiva, 2002, and it is described in more depth in Blatt, or Greene and Hansher. Blatt warns of the instability of its direct estimation by maximum likelihood. So following the author proposal, in the first stage, we used the expect maximization algorithm. In the proximity of the optimum, the second state behinds with a standard process of maximization is of likelihood function. A relevant aspect for the estimation, usually omitted in similar works, is to narrow the choice of school available to parents. If we consider within the choice set the choice set alternatives which are not really available due to the selection process of the school, impossibility of access, lack of information, or other factors, the parameters could be imprecise or even biased. To define the school choice set, we approach it with heuristics which seek to resemble an appropriate set of options. The strategy is based on 5 criteria: distance, income, timing of choice, and academic selection. Regarding distance, we consider a school as available for an individual when it is located at a distance equal to or shorter than where they actually attend, plus those schools which have students who travel a distance equal to or longer than what the individual will have to travel to attend. With respect to income, we consider a school as available if the individual's income is within the incomes range of that school's students, or if the monthly copayment fee is equal to or lower than what the individual declares to pay in his or her current school. The timing of choice criterion excludes those schools which start at 7th grade or higher, and the schools which only offers vocational education for families who attend private schools that have stayed in the same school since 6th grade. Finally, the academic selection restriction was constructed in 2 stages. First, we defined that a school can potentially select its students on an academic criterion if the average grades of all the students who moved to that school were statistically higher than the average grades of all the observations that moved to schools that fall within the same range of cost. Under this criterion, there are 255 schools, 32% of the schools in the system, at which admission is conditional on the grades obtained in the former school. Secondly, for each school, and considering only those which select students, the mode value of the presentation grades of all the children who actually changed to the school was established at the baseline, which guarantees a viability. The individual with grades lower than this and higher than the minimum observed grade were assigned a probability of a viability associated to the empirical accumulated distribution of the grades of the students who actually enter the school. Finally, for those cases with a viability associated to an intermediate value between 0 and 1, the definitive viability 0 or 1 is defined at the moment of the estimation according to randomly generated numbers from a uniform distribution 0.1 estimations with different random seeds produces the same qualitative results.